that we want to bring into the world. And so there's a process that we can go about doing it. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, this concept is called pitching. So the purpose of pitching is to tell others about your idea, and it helps you to get much more traction and support than if you were to try to do everything on your own. So I'm going to give just a short presentation of how pitches are done. I'll show you an example of me pitching. So I went to South Korea last month, and I pitched at the Young ICT Leaders Forum. And so this will be me talking about one of the project ideas that we've worked on. It's called Empowered, and it's essentially, we want to work on a platform that can help to connect persons with disabilities who have certain sort of digital skills to job opportunities online. So essentially it's like a job matching platform, but it needs to be accessible. So I'll just kind of go into that a little bit, and but I will give you a brief idea as to how to craft the pitch. So this is me in South Korea at the Young ICT Leaders Forum, and so I'm going to show you briefly. Is there audio? Managing Director of Ipsum Technologies. Our mission is to improve the quality of life for persons with disabilities by increasing access to digital technologies that promote independent living and encourage equal participation in society. Now, I want to tell you a brief story about Chanel Smith. Chanel is an aspiring 3D animator from my home country in Trinidad and Tobago. She is 20 years of age and she has a disability. Her disability is cerebral palsy, and as a result of that, she has several difficulties getting access to jobs. Chanel is extremely talented, as you can see. That's one of her art pieces for the animation. And she's at a huge disadvantage in that most employers are not necessarily going to hire her in preference to anyone else. Consequently, she's probably not going to be able to really live out her dreams and to share the same opportunities like someone who doesn't have a disability. But do you know that 1 in 7 people around the world have a disability? And like Chanel, that totals over 1 billion people. As a result of that, I have spoken with several persons who, like Chanel, have many disabilities at home. And the one thing that they all have in common is that the challenge of being able to access employment is one that restricts them from being able to truly live their lives. And so they find themselves dependent on friends and family, and in some cases, they're confined to a life of poverty. But I think the solution is simple. What if we're able to connect persons with disabilities to jobs online? Jobs that you're not patronizing them for. It's actual real jobs that they can do because they have the talent. And so my company, we've been working on a platform called Empowered that really and truly will create opportunities. But of course, this platform has to be built accessible. So, what do I mean by accessible? Well, for persons who are blind, it has to be built in such a way that it uses a screen reader can interpret it. For persons who are deaf, it has to have a relay service that can connect someone who wants to work with someone who's deaf in a way that they can understand, so someone who can do sign language. So, what do I need? I need developers. I need developers who understand accessibility. I also need social impact investors who understand the challenges and are willing to put money not into a charity. This is not a charity, but rather into an investment in people. People who, like us here in this room, have aspirations, have dreams, and want to make a difference, and do not want to be seen as a charity case. So, with that, I conclude. Thank you.
Round of applause. And please go to your Menti.com, use code 405817 to vote for Sean.
Good. So that's just an example of what I have done. And you all have ideas. And like me, it's in the development stage. And so you want to be able to get traction. And it means that you have to share your ideas with as many people as possible and get them to support you in what you're doing. And so for a lot of people, I've learned that they keep their ideas a secret. And so I would use the parable of the talents and say that if you bury your idea and keep it a secret, it will never grow. So share it with as many people as possible, and you will learn what works, what doesn't work, and it will produce for you. So just to give you a quick idea as to how this is done. So there's typically 4 aspects of it. There's the information, the audience, the story, and the distribution. So you can, in terms of the information, there are a couple of questions that you want to answer, which is who is this benefiting? What exactly is the idea that I'm proposing? When do I propose to implement it? Where is there a specific geographic location or community, etc.? Why am I doing this? And then how will it be done? And so it actually ties back into the whole idea of a project and of planning, because you have to go through the entire process of thinking through your idea and how it will be done. But you have to use your imagination a lot, because you haven't done anything and you may not necessarily have the resources on hand. So once you've thought through the information that is going to go into your presentation, you then have to consider your audience. So we all have different backgrounds, and in this case, abilities. So we have to understand how to reach that person where they are. So for example, it's easy to understand how to pitch to someone who understands English, but do we understand their professional background? Because that makes a difference, right? If they have a tertiary level education versus a secondary school education versus a private school education. Do they have a disability? What type of disability do they have, right? Because in my case, I have to pitch a lot, and so I have to reach out to persons who may not necessarily understand the same language that I do. For example, sign language, right? So we need to understand who is the audience, and then we have to determine how we're going to reach them. And of course, you want to determine what you want to achieve. So in my case, my goal is I want to improve the quality of life for persons with disabilities. That's the ultimate goal. It's not about me creating a prototype, or it's not about me creating a platform. The ultimate objective is, can I improve your life? The projects are there to actually accomplish that goal. So you want to set yourself the highest goal possible, and then work towards that. And then you want to craft stories. So you can weave in stories about, for example, I showed Chanel Smith, and her experiences growing up, and the fact that she's very talented, but she will face barriers, as we all know, with respect to getting into a job, with respect to traveling to different countries. For her, she may not face it to the extent that Charlene faces it, in terms of Charlene is in a wheelchair, but she will face some barriers, and we all face barriers depending upon what our abilities or disabilities are. So you want to craft stories, and for persons with disabilities, you can use your own stories. For those who don't, find someone who has a disability and learn about their story and understand it and empathize with it a little bit more. And then of course, in terms of distribution, so there are different methods you could share. So you can share via video, you could share in person as I'm doing now. And then of course, you could talk on the radio. So it depends on the medium, and of course, whichever medium or channel that you're using, you have to tailor your message accordingly. So